Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. For today's workshop, we're going to be making a journal prompt card, which is a visual prompt. It's a piece of artwork that you create to give an idea to somebody else to create a piece of art. The theme for this particular card is "Can you hear me?" And from there, you can create a piece of art just based on that idea. My idea for this one, for the actual prompt card, is a very sketchy drawing with paint, a sketch of a girl's face, half a face, very, very simple. We're not doing a portrait, but just more of a sketch with a very serene look on her face. As if she's, sort of invisible. She's asking if somebody can hear her, and when you take that idea to create a piece of art, you could basically somebody walking in a forest, or somebody trying to talk to somebody, or somebody whispering a secret to somebody, so that type of thing. So for this here, I've got a piece of, this is, what size is this? This is 140-pound cold pressed watercolor paper. This is Arches paper. It's torn to 4x6 sizes. I've got a video available on how to prepare these cards. I've got a stencil for a background, and this is a decor stencil. It's called Art Deco, and I'm using it actually upside down for the design. I'm not sure. Need a pencil. This is a Royal Tubby pencil. I've got some brushes. I may use these, all of these. I may not. I may add more. But you don't need to take notes, because all the supplies that I actually do use will be at the end of the video. So what I've got two soft grip brushes. I've got a number 8 bristle bright, which I use to actually roughly stencil with this. I love this brush. I've got a 1/2-inch mop. Then I've got 3 Aqualon brushes. I've got a number 1 and, what is this one? A number 1 and a 2-0 round, and a number, this looks like a number 8. I can't see this, transparent. Number 8 round. Oh, I forgot this one, number 1 wash. And then I've got a Majestic number 12 filbert. Numbers don't matter on the brushes. Okay, use the brush that you feel most comfortable with to the size of what you're working on. Okay? I've got my brush basin and a mister bottle. I've got my little palette with all my colors, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And I've got my sketchbook. Now my sketchbook is just a regular sketchbook, nothing fancy about it, where I do a whole bunch of sketches. And for this particular one, these are not my professional drawings. These are just little things that I work on when trying to do more stylized portraits, which is what I call animated portraits. And the one I'm looking for, should have had put a flag in this. This one here. I'm looking at doing something like this. These are all done from memory, not from any particular reference drawing. So you'll be doing the same, not from a line drawing. You'll be just doing from just a freestyle. The paints I'm using are Deco Art Traditions. These are artist quality acrylics, and in with this paint, so 1 part paint, I added about a 1/4 part of the extender and blending medium. This will keep the paint open a little bit longer. It'll slow the drying time down, and it'll make it a little bit more transparent, which helps when painting under studio lights. So the colors that I have, yeah, this way's fine. Cerulean blue, red violet, naphtha red light, yellow oxide, burnt umber, carbon black, titanium white. Some alternatives: if you don't have cerulean blue, you can take titanium white, add a speck of phthalo blue. This is for her eyes. Really, you could make this any color you want. And I was actually pondering making her eyes ice green, which would have been nice. So this is for her eyes. Just don't make her eyes a typical brown. Something really, really vibrant. Okay, and then the red violet I'm going to use in combination with a bit of the black for her hair. But you can use really any purple you want. You can use even alizarin crimson is fine. Any type of purple. Dioxazine purple might be a bit strong. You want something more on the red side. Naphtha red light, yellow oxide, and combination of white is for her skin tones. And then the black, brown, and red violet is for her hair. The black is for her pupils as well. Okay? So, let's get started first with the background. And the card's going to be this way. And you can really make it any way you want. And how I did that, which is nice with these stencils, is that you can put the stencil right on top, and I'm looking for what's going to be on the outside. So I really don't want her face covered because this part's going to be on the actual edge of the card. Okay, so her face is going to be cut off like this. So I could put this more on the outside. Alright, so her face is going to be here. And I could do this, or I could do this and only do one side. That doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, but I want something up here, so I'm thinking I'm going to do this one. Okay. So I can even do it on an angle. Like I said, it doesn't matter. All I'm doing is getting something in the background. And then I'm going to take some tape, which I did. This is part of the general supplies, you know, your tape, your bucket, your brush grooming pad, all that stuff is part of your general supplies that I don't really call out with this. This is stuff you should already have. So I'm just going to tape off half, like so. Let's see if I create her here like this. Oh, and I'm going to come down a little bit more. And you can cover this up if you want. This will just save me time. Okay, because her face is going to be here. And I'm actually doing her face opposite to this. I'm flipping it sort of the other way. Alright, so let's see. We're going to take, for the background stencil, you can do anything you want. What I want to do first, watercolor paper. This one's kind of tinted, or not tinted, it's kind of beigey. So I'm going to take my wash brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of white. And you can see my brush is, the water is very dirty, and I'm just going to put white on here. Now I didn't put gesso on this first. That's not necessary, because all this is just going to do is just make the paper a little bit whiter. And yeah, usually I don't like paper that's white, but this one, there's a reason. I'm going to be stenciling the background in black and then rubbing it out. Okay. Make sure you rinse your brushes really well with acrylic paints. I'm also working on a Ranger Craft mat because nothing sticks to it. Alright. Heat gun to speed up the drying time. About 12 inches above. Keep your hand underneath. As long as your hand can stay there comfortably, you're at the right temperature. Okay? Doesn't take long. With the extender in it, it does take a little bit longer to dry, which is why I like using a heat gun. Okay? Now, I'm going to put the stencil on top of this. Whoops, over here. Okay. I'm going to take my Bristle Bright. Now, I'm going to use black for the actual background. Go into a little bit of white. I want to make it kind of like a gray. Okay, and then rub off the excess on a paper towel. You can tape your stencil down if you find that you end up moving a lot. And keep this wispy. Don't make it solid. Well, you know what? There's no real rules to this. Just do it any way you want, but I'm making mine really wispy. The background shouldn't compete. Okay. All right. Now, while this is drying, I'm going to take just a Clorox wipe and quickly just wipe this. I find that when I'm doing my videos, I take too long to clean my stencils and they end up getting really, really stained, which doesn't really matter, just means they're well used, but I'll put that aside. Okay. Now, is this ready to go? Yeah, that fact didn't take long to dry. Let me just do a quick dry on this. Very, very fast, very, very fast. That's it. Don't keep your heat gun too long on here. We're not heat embossing. And with the Ranger Craft Mat, you can actually use heat on this. All right, now we're going to start doing our drawing. So, oh, and I also have a nano liner. This is just a liner. It's a 05 liner black. You can use any liner you want if you want to outline. That I'm not sure if I'm going to do. So I'm going to have to kind of work that out. With our graphite pencil, we can very lightly sketch something out if you're not quite used to doing that type of thing. I'm going to use the actual shape here to kind of guide me. To the drawing. This is what makes it really interesting. Okay, and I'm going to make her hair come down, and then her eyes, with her hair the way she's going to come down, I'm just going to have one eye just kind of seeping out, and very, very subtle. Now, if you created your stencil too far this way, you can actually go over with white paint to kind of cover that up, or if you want, draw the face right on top of the stencil, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I was told that I better provide a drawing for this, so I quickly stopped and I created a drawing. So what I did is I created the drawing based on mine, full size, but just to show you how flexible this is, about where I was saying about painting over, you can actually take your drawing and kind of fold it over to get an idea of what you want to do. So mine actually fits quite nicely in here. Okay, then the hair will just kind of drape over. All right, so with this now is you just basically, if you want to transfer the drawing to the surface, that's fine. And then all you're going to do is from here, now her face is coming down this way. Okay, so I'm thinking, again, so if you want to transfer from the line drawing, that's fine. And what you want to do is you want to put her lids, let me just get a close-up. You want to put her lids really over the eye to make it look like she's really, really, really sleepy. Okay, so let's just make that a little bit bigger. Again, this is just a drawing. You'll be able to adjust this. I'm going to make that a little bit higher. Okay, and then down here, I'm kind of looking this way, and I find that with a lot of portraits, I end up drawing upside down because it helps. Now this one here, remember, it's a stylized portrait. We don't want it to look like a total, like an actual true portrait, okay? And usually the eye and the end of the lips meet. The nose actually has to come out just a little bit. Okay. And if you want to make her eyes a little bit bigger, that's fine. Stylized, remember? Stylized. Okay, there we go. Where's my eraser? Sorry, I'm just going to bring this down a bit. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. And I just realized that I want her eyes to really pop out, the blue. So I'm just going to make her eyes a little bit bigger. Like that. There we go. All right. If you want the other eye showing up, that's fine. You can do that. So now I'm going to put that pencil away. And now we're going to take our brush. And what we want to do is we want to just kind of get everything based in first. And I want to take some white. This is probably dry now. White. No, it's not dry. Let me just clean that out. I'm not going to edit out any of my mistakes here, because that way you'll be able to see how I get out of them. I used to do all that when I was doing my videos. I would edit out when I made a boo-boo or something. I used to edit that out. Then, you know what? I would rather show you what to do, because what happens if you make that mistake and then you won't know, you know, how to get yourself out of it. A lot of the times it's just a matter of just making a tiny adjustment. White, yellow ochre to make something nice and creamy, and a tad of red. And this is going to make our base skin tone. You can make it any way you want. I'm going to need more white. I'm going to need more white. You're going to need quite a bit of this, especially if you covered up, if you want to cover up some of the stencil part. Oh, this is perfect. Now remember, acrylics dry darker than they actually show. So the other thing that you can do as well, we don't want to make this so light, but I want her eyes to stand out. So that's actually pretty good. You can choose, if your stenciling is really light, you can choose to make the skin tone a little bit darker. You can make the skin tone purple for all I care. It doesn't really matter. And we're just going to cover her entire skin. If you go over the lips, don't worry about it, because we can always fix that up. Remember, this is a stylized face, so proportions don't matter. You can even make the mouth, you know, up the side of her face if you want. Once you have the outline and it dries, you can also transfer the line drawing back to the piece. And just gonna, there, like so. Stylize, just remember, stylize. From when I teach people how to do this, they try to make the portrait so perfect, saying, no, we're not doing a 3-day portrait course. We're doing a stylized face. It's meant to be very, very creative and artistic. Now, while that dries, let's go and start her hair a little bit. Burnt umber and yellow oxide. And let's just gonna get a little bit of water in there. Just a very, very nice sketch. I'm using my large round brush for this. Okay. I'm not going over the face yet. I just want to get something in here. And I can put a little bit down here. Again, I'm not going over the face because we still have a little bit of work to do. You can make them swirly. If you make them swirly, it really stylizes the face. Just get something in there. Okay, like so. You can even bring the strokes all the way up to the top. Doesn't matter. Okay, now the face color is actually pretty good. What you want to do is you want to make sure you don't have any white of the paper showing. Okay, the lips I don't care about. You just don't want any white showing. We're going to be bringing the hair over the skin, but we want to let this peachy color dry first. So no white showing through. There we go. Nice thing about this piece is that you can work on it non-stop. You don't have to stop to let things dry. I'm going to take my tiny 2-0 liner, round I should say, and I'm going to put this in now. Let's see if I can get a close up. The camera may not want to focus. Cerulean blue over the entire eye. And I'm using a tiny brush for this. Usually I say the bigger the brush, the better. Well, because this is so small, now some of the graphite will mix in with your color. Don't worry about that, because you can always put another layer. That's the beauty of acrylic paints, is that you can put many layers on this. And I am going to have to do that because you can see the graphite here is it's really darkened that up a bit. Okay, I'm going to let that dry for a sec. Now I'm going to take my number 1 and I'm going to take some white with a speck of burnt umber. You're going to have more than necessary, but you want to just make the white an off-white. The whites of the eyes are never truly white. We're just going to paint that in like so. And we'll need to do this probably in a couple of layers. Alright. And I'm going to take burnt umber. And we're just going to outline the eye. You can actually do this in, if you do this with black, I find that black is so harsh. But if you want your pretty girl here to have really heavy outlined eyes, that's fine. That's fine. Eyebrows, typically you make them the same color as the hair, not always the case. And I'm just short little choppy strokes. And you can make these as stylized as you want. Okay. And I'm just going to smudge that out. I don't like smudging with these brushes because these are really good brushes. Smudging is just kind of softening the outside edge. Alright. Take that same brush with the leftover paint and just kind of go over the graphite lines. Okay, just like so. Now I'm going to let that dry. Let's work on the mouth. And the mouth, I'm going to take the same brush I'm using, and again I can't see the numbers, number 1. And it's going to take Naphthol red with a little bit of white. And I'm just going to base her lips in first. I'm going to base them in first. This is a project that is so popular. With kids. The one thing is to get kids and young people to get them to express themselves. This is a very popular way. And same thing with if you want to be able to draw people or paint people, and you know you don't feel that you can, or you don't have the time to do the. I mean, I'm teaching a formal lessons on the portraiture work, and it does take a long time if it's really what you want to do. But if you want to just be able to draw some faces, like, I mean, I've got videos on painting features, actual portrait features, because you don't have to learn how to do an entire portrait. If you just want to paint, let's say, a pair of lips on your design. But this is a really good way, because although it is very stylized, not realistic, what I call animated, I think it's so beautiful. I think it's pretty. It's really cute. And the one thing you can keep in mind is where you want the lips to be pouty is you just leave it a little bit lighter. And I am going to have to put 2 layers of paint on this. I like that outline that I did there. I tried to get my lips like this when I was in high school. Oh, man. Makeup. It's like being banished wearing makeup in school. Okay. Let's see. Now, she's totally out of proportion, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm going to take some of that portrait color, just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to deepen it up a smidgen. And I'm just going to add a tiny speck of cerulean blue to it. I'm just going to cool it up and then just darken it a little bit. Just going to cool it. And put a little bit of burnt umber in there. And this is just more for shadows. Filbert brush. Portraiture work with a filbert brush is so nice. Oh. Okay, just darkening that up a little bit. And same with under the neck. A little bit more. I'm going to take a little bit of red violet in there too. I love shadow work with violets. I'm going to be a little bit more precise with my strokes here. Okay. There we go. And just putting a little bit more color, blending that out. Now when it dries, you'll be able to see without all that shine. See, it dries much darker. And I'm just putting a little bit of a color where I want things to be highlighted. Here is with the portrait color, the portrait mix with a little bit of cerulean blue and burnt umber. And now I'm just kind of going over, I picked up a little bit of white to where I want the things to be a little bit brighter. And a little bit of burnt umber. Let's try that again. A little bit of burnt umber where there's going to be some shadow. Always shadows under the nose and in the cheek area. Okay. I find that she's a little light. There we are. Now let's let that dry. And while we're at it, now I'm going to add the second layer of paint to her mouth. See how it really pops out? I mean, I could really even make it really stylized. And then when that dries, I'm going to come in with some white. And on the white, you just basically up and down, up and down, up and down, where you want it to be pouty. Like that. And I can take a little bit of red violet, just a smidgen right here. Okay, we'll let that dry. And we'll just keep working. Go back to cerulean blue. Put a little bit more cerulean blue here. Oh, this is going to be nice. And I also found that some of the paint kind of smeared a little bit. I'm going to take some of that portrait color with a bit of white. Right in here. Oh, that's too white, too white, too white. If the whites of the eyes are too white, she's going to look scared. Alrighty. And now, is this dry yet? Not quite. Not quite. I'm going to take a bit of white. Let's take whatever's in the palette. A little bit of yellow oxide. And now I'm just going to go back over again. And I kept a little bit of paint in my water in my brush. I kept a little bit of water in my brush to keep this fairly thin. And then we're going to be able to go over with the hair color. Soften that out. And we still have to put another coat on the eyebrows. Because I used the extender, the paints are a little bit thinner. I also have red here from her mouth. The paints are a little bit thinner. So usually it's an extra coat that's necessary. Now the hair is going to come right over her eye here. So you actually don't even need to worry about this piece here. I dried this with the heat gun. I grabbed a smaller brush. And I'm just going to... This stuff is drying so fast. Just want to put a little bit of a shadow right here. And I'm going to grab a little bit of extender and put a little bit of extender directly in the palette. Sometimes extender just on the piece will help things flow much easier. There we go. Okay. And you can put little nostrils there. And I'm going to come in with the portrait color with a lot of white right here. A little bit of extender. Now, if you're painting on a surface that's very not porous at all, then you won't have to worry about this much blending. There we are. I just find that I'm having to do a lot of blending because it's the raw watercolor paper. But we're good to go now. All right. Where's my little brush? Itty bitty bitty birdie brush. My little number 1. And I'm going to add a little bit of water to the burnt umber. And we're going to go over her eye again because it's now the eye is finished. I just want to get that nice liner, and I also want to get the pupil in there and some eyelashes. Now you can choose, again, you can choose whatever color you want for the liner. But see how stylized that is? Left whatever's in the brush, just come back in, and now I'm focusing more on the bottom of the eyebrow. Okay, and a little bit of a line here. Okay, just for a little bit of a shadow. Oh, perfect. There we are. Okay. In a traditional portrait, her lips would be up much more. Okay. What you do is you take the face, divide it in half, then divide this part into thirds, and there's actual proportional measures. But this is stylized. Now, let's get her pupil in there. You could do the pupil a couple of ways. You can use the end of a brush to dot black, like that. Okay, I'm just going to paint it by hand. Black, 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 black. And then we're going to dot the highlight, and then she's going to just totally come to life. So it's like a half circle. And if you happen to boo-boo this up, just let it dry and then do it again. And come back, put some more cerulean blue over it and do it again. So that has to dry. And let's now go in. Now I brought a mop brush to pick up bits of the paint here, and I'm just going to dab this on the outside edge here. The mop brushes you want to use dry, but as soon as you get paint into them, put it back and put it into the water. Now let's go in with some burnt umber, a little bit of yellow oxide. Okay, let's get some extender in there. And now we're just going to come right. Don't cover everything that you've already done. There we go. This piece here needs to be covered in. Covered in, that's good English. Okay. And then when we'll come in with the smaller brush, we'll actually put some wisps of hair right over her face. And I'm going to take my round brush, my nice round brush. I'm going to come in with a little bit of red violet. I'm going to go into the portrait mixture here. It doesn't matter because we're just basically pulling in some type of contrasting color right into the wet paint. And I can also accent these little twirls. You don't have to put in the twirls. This is just to add a little bit of whimsy to it. You don't have to do that. A bit more of the burnt umber. I can actually add a little bit of black to the burnt umber because we're other than the highlight, we're actually almost finished. But you can actually add a little bit of black in here to make the shadows in between the hair. Just don't overblend it. Now let's get some wispy hair here. Now I really should get my liner brush out. That's the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do. And I am going to do that. I've got this really funky liner brush. See, I told you that I was going to bring out some supplies. I got this really, really neat liner brush. It holds so much paint here, and it's just a few hairs right there. And I'm going to go into this mix right here. It holds so much paint. And this is just a few little wispy hairs. And just kind of come around. Oh, this is so pretty. This is so pretty. Get some lighter hair in there. Your paint has to be really, really soupy for this. I'm going to put a bit more white in there. This is going to be like where the light hits it. I'm just going to put something, I'm going to just touch that a little bit. And we are almost finished. I'm just going to taper this a little bit more. Her face is not quite tapered enough. See, I can still fix that. I'm going to shadow her hair under here, just burnt umber. This is where her neck is. And there's white showing, white paint, white of the paper showing through. And come through. Even with the extender, this is still drying quite quickly. Or that's actually being absorbed into the paper. So doing this again, I should have primed it with gesso first. because for the raw watercolor paper, it absorbs everything, and the very light wash of titanium white wasn't enough. Okay, if you want to hit it with more purple, you can do that. Okay, that's up to you. Now, see, I see a whole bunch of white here. Whole bunch of white here. Right there. I'll have to clean that up after. Let's get the highlight in. I can use this massive liner. Toothpick is really, really good for that. And you're just going to dab. There we go. Like so. And from here, you can actually write down, can you hear me? But that alone, she's pondering, she's thinking, what's going on? And you know what? I'm going to add, oh, will this work? Will this work? Let me see, where's my, I keep a paper clip handy when the paper effects clogs up a little bit. That's because I don't clean it. You can take paper effects and you can actually just I'm adding little dabs of gold dots to her hair, and you can even just put little bits here and there, like so. And there, she's finished. So with this here, it's ready to go, ready to be given out. You can basically choose to make a few little adjustments if you want. This is basically completely up to you. It's a personal preference. I want to make her lips a little bit poutier, so I'll add a little bit more white to make it pouty, make her lips pouty. I can actually come in with a little bit more red. And just make them a little bit darker. Right here. Okay, like so. It's completely up to you. But again, this is a stylized face. So if you're looking to do something realistic, this is not the project for you. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed this, and I would say in a few weeks I will come back. When this is all out of my mind, I will come back and I will actually create a piece of artwork based on this theme. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.